God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, be with you and remain with you now and
Hi there everyone, Jack here again at the Vinyl Voyage. So today's video is all about British psychedelic rock albums from the late 1960s to the present day. The last one was only released about a week ago. And I know that I said last week that I was going to do one more psychedelic rock video and then I was going to move on to pastures new. However, I've got that many new psych rock albums that I'm going to do one more next week, and then that'll be me for a while. I'm going to do some different things, but let's get on with this anyway. British psychedelic rock. First one is a band that was formed in 67. Yeah, 67. They were originally known as the Five Proud Walkers. They were a kind of blues soul band that supported Pink Floyd, or the early Pink Floyd, and when they supported Pink Floyd, they ended up liking that style of music and suppose getting in with the spirit of the times. They psychedelicized their soulful sounds. So this is Elmer Gantry's Velvet Opera from 1968, and a great album. Like I said, they were originally known as the Five Proud Walkers. You can see here Elmer Gantry's Velvet Opera only have 4 members, so they jettisoned someone along the way. But yeah, this is really cool. I think this is predominantly a pop psych record. However, there are still traces of soul and blues in here, and some, you know, a couple of little bits of proto-prog as well. But yeah, really good. I'm not sure which guy Elmer Gantry is, but I believe he got his name because this chap, Dave Terry, the singer, he pitched up at one of their rehearsals wearing this preacher's hat and a cape. So he got named Elmer Gantry after the character in the movie. But yeah, really good. It starts off with Elmer Gantry in full kind of preacher mode, where he says to the audience, "Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elmer Gantry's Velvet Opera. I'd like to introduce you to the orchestra. The man on the guitar is Colin Foster, on bass John Ford, and laying it down on drums Hud, and that's Richard Hudson. And the drums in this album are brilliant. I love the drums in the first song called Mother Writes, which almost sounds a little bit like, suppose, 67 The Who, but the bass is amazing and the drums are fantastic as well, and there's all these great little kind of staccato time changes. Mary Jane, the second track on the album, that was banned by the BBC for its kind of drug connotations. And the BBC found out that Mary Jane was slang for marijuana. But yeah, a lot of cool songs. I Was Cool, that's got a bit of a walking blues. That's probably my least favourite song on there. Walter Sly meets Bill Bailey has a very proto-prog keyboard section in it. This song, Air, so one of the last songs on the first side. Richard Hudson, I believe the drummer, plays it's him. He plays the sitar on that song, and that is very trippy, kind of sitar-led psychedelia. Really cool. When you get into the second side of this album, it's more pop psych. There's a little bit of orchestration in some of the songs. It is more poppy. I don't think there's hardly a song that goes beyond 3 minutes, 5 seconds. All the songs are really short. There's some kind of studio trickery in songs like Dream Starts, which has this kind of underwater effect added to Elmer Gantry's vocals, which kind of gives it that kind of trippy sound as well. But Long Nights of Summer is beautiful. What's the Point of Leaving? Really beautiful as well. Now She's Gone. All those songs on the second side, and some of the ones on the first side, are like real classic pop psych. Mary Jane is as well. The first song, this one, Flames, is quite an interesting track. That was their first single, and the New Yardbirds, when Jimmy Page first started the New Yardbirds, which became Led Zeppelin, that was a song that they would cover live, and Robert Plant, throughout his career, covered Flames, and I believe it was probably Robert Plant's influence as to why the New Yardbirds covered it. He was a bit of a hippie back in the day. Robert Plant, he was into Moby Grape and all the kind of West Coast stuff. But yeah, this is tremendous. I picked us up an OG for a really good price. You can see it's on this Direction label. I think was that a CBS subsidiary. I'll just show you the label. Yeah. Really, really cool OG. It's in pretty much mint condition. Yeah, really, really pleased to pick this up. Like I said, it's psychedelia that kind of hops around through a variety of different styles, but predominantly I think pop psych with these kind of elements of, or these kind of soulful elements and kind of bluesy elements coming through from time to time. Those odd bits of trippy studio work with the funny effects in the vocals, but the sitar track, like I said, is brilliant air. But yeah, really worth tracking down. Give it a listen. You can listen to it on Spotify as well. But that's Elmer Gantry's self-titled debut. They did do one other album called, I think it was The Hustler Rides Again. I've not actually heard that. I'm not sure how that goes, but I think Elmer Gantry had left by then, so they were just the Velvet Opera. And they pretty much split up after that second album. The rhythm section, John Ford on bass and Richard Hudson on drums went to form, or didn't form, they went to join the Strawbs, and they were in the Strawbs throughout their kind of classic period. Yeah, give it a listen, really, really cool. Next up, some Neo Psychedelia, just released last week, hot off the press from Fuzz Club Records, out of deepest, darkest Norfolk, from Norwich. This is Laurel Image with their debut album, Gone Down Meadowland. Really, really cool. I've really enjoyed listening to this so far. This was sent to me by my good friend Sasso Vivanti, who sends me a record each month to give a listen to. He's got his finger in the pulse with all the new stuff, and I was really pleased to get this. It's really, really cool. Again, it's a kind of mixture of different neo-psych elements. So let's get into it. You know, that first side is quite poppy. Songs like Meadowland is an instrumental. You've got this song, The Dream, which is kind of dreamy pop psych. The score, again, is quite pastoral and, yeah, a little bit, yeah, dreamy again. A lot of some of the songs in that first side, they've got that kind of late 60s Beatles Rain sound, especially on the bass guitar. But then you also hear some 90s influences coming through as well. You hear the Charlatans circa Some Friendly. Actually, one of the songs, there's a bit that sounds like Then from Some Friendly. You hear a little bit of the Stone Roses, especially in that song Boogie Time or Boogie Town. The last one on side one, Boogie Town, is like a kind of jazzy kind of psych song, but then it kind of just changes abruptly and goes into a funky bit with these funky drums and this kind of Fool's Gold-esque bass line. But yeah, really, really cool. Then if you get into side two, it opens up with Tiergarten, named after the big park, or the massive park in central Berlin. And that's got that kind of motoric driving rhythm. A little bit krautrock, a little bit Tame Impala, or a whole lot Tame Impala. You can hear all those vintage synths that they've brought in. Then Howling Dog Song is more of a nod to kind of early King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It's all kind of frantic, urgent rock and roll. It's yeah, it's really, really cool. It's a really cool album. What did Fuzz Club say about it? So they say, Gone Down Meadowland is the debut album from Norwich UK outfit Floral Image, seeking to hone a brand of East Coast psychedelia that reflected the natural lusciousness and glorious solitude of the immediate world around them. This is 10 tracks of vivid hue and harnessed live power, all laced together in fluid lyrical harmonies, veering between shimmering sun-drenched psych pop charms and nocturnal motoric wig-outs. And yeah, that is a perfect description of it, and more succinct than mine. But yeah, I'll show you the inner. Really, really nicely packaged as well by Fuzz Club. You've got the lyrics on the back. Another nice little painting. I think it was one of the band members that does all the artwork. What kind of instruments are on here? Yeah, lots of different synths, electric guitars, all the usual stuff. Some harmonica on some of the tracks, some dog barks. I'll just show you the label. Yeah, a real summer psych album, this one. Is that it? There we go. They produced the album themselves as well. Floral Image, Gone Down Meadowland. That nice dark green vinyl. Yeah, for their first album, really impressed with this, and an album that's definitely going to be a grower. Like I said, even though you've got that 90s influence, you've got that kind of dream pop, more 60s psychedelic influence in there, and then the electronic stuff as well, the kind of krautrock influence. It doesn't sound derivative at all kind of fits together well, and it's a very cohesive album. So yeah, give it a go. Gone Down Meadowland by Floral Image. To 1971, the third album then from Kevin Ayers. This is Whatever She Brings, She Sings. What an album cover. You've got this basket of eggs that's toppled out, and out of these eggs hatch these little humanoid creatures. This one, absolutely desperate to go to the toilet. And then we've got the same in the back. These little guys, and this piece of artwork is called No Explanation. Yeah, really, really cool album, this. Kevin Ayers, again, backed by a number of his friends. The touring band that he had after Joy of a Toy was called The Whole World, and a lot of these guys from the Whole World band, they appeared on his second album, and said toured with him on that Joy of a Toy tour. They appear on here as well, as do members of Gong and Soft Machine. Yeah, this is really nice. Lots of nice atmospheric orchestral pop. Again, it veers into kind of prog territory in areas, and then in other areas you've got kind of like ragtime. So the song Oh My kind of breaks into this little ragtime number. That opening track, it was like kind of a little medley. There is love, there is loving among us, and there is loving. There's really, really nice, lovely orchestration in there. Song from the bottom of a well is this like kind of really strange, kind of darker psych track where he's got this kind of like odd vocal delivery, or a kind of sinister sounding vocal delivery on that one. Margaret is really, really beautiful, more kind of dreamy. And then like on the second side, songs like Champagne Cowboy Blues and Stranger in Blue Suede Shoes, they kind of a nod back to his kind of rock and roll roots. But it's interesting with Champagne Cowboy Blues, where that opening track from Joy of a Toy, that really upbeat psychedelic orchestral number, that bleeds through towards the end of that song, kind of linking back to that first album. Songs like Whatever She Brings, We Sing. Yeah, is that one. Yeah, you've got Robert Wyatt from his old buddy from the Soft Machine singing backing vocals on there. I think he plays bass on that as well. Mike Oldfield plays lead guitar and bass. And on the song Lullaby, that's a really nice song to finish on. You've got, is it Diddy Malaber? I can't pronounce that surname. It was the saxophone and flute player from Gong. I keep thinking Diddy Drogba, but that wouldn't be right. I don't think he ever played flute with Kevin Ayers. So yeah, I got an OG press of this, or what is known as the special cut on that Harvest label. Again, this is really nice condition as well. So really pleased to pick this up. We're really beginning into Kevin Ayers recently. He's got such a great voice. Very similar kind of vocal delivery, I think, to Syd Barrett. But maybe a little bit, I don't know, maybe veers a little bit more towards Scott Walker territory. Maybe a bit of a softer delivery. But yeah, really like it. Kevin Ayers, lovely orchestration, loads of great instruments in his albums, and this is another beauty. So to 1996, and Wales this time, for one of my favourite 90s bands is of course the unbelievable Gorki Zygotic Monkey with their album Barafundo. And this is probably my favourite Gorki Zygotic Monkey album. I've spoken about these guys before on my channel. I was a big Gorky's fan back in the day. I think I saw them in '96, though my memories are hazy. I'm pretty sure I saw them at Tea in the Park. In fact, I did see them at tea in the park, because I can remember Euros Child, the lead singer, his head bobbing up and down as he was playing the keyboard in a small tent. I think it was the NME stage they played on. But yeah, this, like I said, is probably their most accessible album. It veers a little bit more towards indie pop territory, but there's a big kind of folk influence on this one as well. Some of their best singles are on here. But yeah, as usual with Gorki's, there's pictures of the band in the back. They kind of mix up that dreamy psychedelia with nice folk passages. And then, like I said, a little bit of indie pop as well. And for me, this album, you've got that first side, which is very dreamy, it's quite psychedelic, it's quite upbeat and catchy towards the beginning of the album. Songs like Diamond Dew and Patio Song were the singles, but the Barafundo Bumbler, quite upbeat as well. But then that second side is more folky. And Euros Childs, the lead singer, his sister Megan Childs plays violin, and they rope their dad in on this as well, Lynn Childs, and he plays a lot of old Welsh stringed instruments that give it even more of a kind of folky sound. So that gives you a breakdown of what they all play. And a lot of the instruments on here I'm not really familiar with. So it says here, Euros Childs plays the ice cream piano. So I thought that was just the title of the Vampire Weekend song from their last album. And without checking Google, can anyone tell me what an ice cream piano actually is? But yeah, let's see. Lynn Childs, the Shawm, Shawm. I do not know what that is. Yeah, there's a whole host of kind of strange things. Korg micros, Wurlitzer organs, Hammond organs, a lot of nylon string guitars, the crumhorn, I don't know what a crumhorn is, flutes, all the rest of it. But yeah, especially on that second side, there's some lovely kind of nylon stringed guitar, Spanish sounding guitar passages, nice little bits of finger picking, and very kind of delicate folk songs, which are really, really beautiful. I'll just show you the label on this. Yep, so this was re-released for Record Store Day, but I managed to pick up an OG recently for a decent price. This is on Fontana. So yeah, really, really pleased to pick this up. I think I'm only after 2 more Gorky's albums, and then I've got all the ones that I want. I'm not so interested in their later albums. I would like to pick up Spanish Dance Troupe, and I would love for a vinyl release of Tati. And finally, an album from 1967 that was put out on Parlophone Records. The band put out the album, went over to Germany, played the Star Club. They were obviously label mates with the Beatles. They put out this absolutely beautiful sounding album. Lovely, lovely instrumentation on here, really poppy, psychedelic songs. You'll see from the cover how trippy this album looks. And altogether, fantastic, fantastic album. A real grail amongst collectors if you get an OG. However, they only lasted for a year or so. They split up. 45 years later, they got together and released a second album. But this is their original album. It is Rainbow's Folly, with their album Sally's Fourth. Just check out that album art. So Rainbow's Folly were a band formed by brothers John and Richard Dunstable. I've got a feeling it was John Dunstable and his wife that did this amazing artwork. It looks so cool. You probably noticed there, this Record Store Day tag here. This was put out Record Store Day 2015, I think. Like I said, the original copies of this, if you could get them, I think are like well over £1,000. Fantastic artwork on the back as well. Now you could probably notice that this is still sealed. I've not opened this, and I'm probably unlikely to open this, because as much as I love this album, and I was really, really happy to get a copy, when it came through the post the other day, can you see that? That big crease. So the whole top part is just bent over. This looks worse than the other side. So you can see all that crease in there. Sometimes I'm quite happy to accept like a partial refund, but this is so badly crushed. The reissue is still quite expensive, and it's so badly crushed this that I don't know. I don't want an album that's so crushed in my collection. I know that it's the vinyl that counts, it's the music that counts, but at the same time, I think I paid £38 for this, and if you're paying £38, you want you want it to be in decent condition, like I do anyway. So unfortunately, in fact, it's creased down here as well. You can see it there. That's not even, the other one's worse. But you know, you pay £38, you want it to be in half decent condition. Like I said, this is such an amazing album, a lovely kind of mix of pop, psych, orchestration, nice orchestration in here. The opening's really funny. It almost sounds like the start of the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, where I think, is it John Dunstable kind of does this introduction, inviting everybody to step aboard the Rainbow Folly and safe passage for all who travel upon her. But he's got like this very, it's got like kind of Mick Jaggerish delivery, like I said, kind of like Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. And they did have a good sense of humour, this band, because this reminds me a little bit of the Blossom Toes, Wherever So Clean, because there's all these little interludes between the songs, little silly skits and things like that, where, you know, on the back here, they mention this between one of the songs, there's a recipe here for curried unicorn, and yeah, little silly bits and pieces like that. But as much as there's all these little humorous or silly 1960s skits, and you know, there's parts where when they're boarding, people are supposedly boarding the ship, there's this like French announcer doing a voiceover bit, and then there's like some German Laurel Image bits later on, and like I said, all these like kind of silly skits. It doesn't take away from the music. The musicianship on here is amazing, and the quality of the songs is brilliant as well. They're not like a two-bit psych band. This is really, really good. So unfortunately for me though, this will probably remain sealed, and we'll go back to the cellar. Like I said, it's too crushed, and yeah, I'm not paying all that money for a damaged item. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I know some people, if the vinyl's good, then you'll hold on to it, and the cover's kind of secondary. But I don't know. If I pay £15 or maybe even £20 for a record, I can maybe let that slide. But when I start paying over £30, I want it to be in tip-top condition. So, like I said, yeah, this will probably go back. And I'm kind of gutted that it will, because I've listened to this album loads on streaming platforms and stuff, and it is an absolutely brilliant, brilliant record. So hopefully another one will be coming my way fairly shortly. So there we have it. 5 absolutely fantastic British psychedelic albums from through the years. If you follow my channel, you know, especially when I'm looking at the psychedelic albums, psychedelic bands, I like to go back to that classic period in the 60s. I also like the modern stuff as well. I think there's loads of great modern bands coming out at the moment. If you're prepared to dig a little bit below the mainstream, there's so much good stuff out there. You've got all the great classic stuff, all this great modern stuff, and even in the later 70s and the 80s, if you read up on different styles of music, especially psychedelic albums, you know, weren't so maybe popular during these periods, you can still find nuggets of gold, little bits of buried treasure, if you're willing to put the work in. But yeah, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you've got any comments on the bands or the albums that I spoke about, I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Any recommendations for further listening, I love that as well. And a few of the albums that I've picked up recently, or over the last few months anyway, have been recommendations from other channels or people who watch my channel. So yeah, I really do value that, and I always reply to everybody that leaves a comment. Like I said, I'm probably going to do one more psychedelic video next week, and then it will definitely be on to something new. I've got a lot of new ideas for directions that I want to take the channel, and yeah, it's time to start getting a few of those in place. But yeah, I've got so much new psych stuff, or not so much, but I bought in a few new psych albums that I would like to talk about. So I'll do one more, and then it'll be moving on to something new probably. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, see you later. Bye for now.